On Sunday evening, President Biden announced to the nation via a Twitter post that he would no longer be seeking re-election in the upcoming United States presidential election. Now, obviously, this news spread like wildfire on Sunday afternoon. I mean, wildfire. The news outlets, the blogs, the YouTubes, the Twitter, everybody is chatting about this thing. And what does it mean? And we're going to get into that at some point. But in this video, I want to actually talk about the leadership lessons that all of us who lead in some capacity, whether you're talking about leading your family, whether you lead in the marketplace for your job, whether you lead a ministry, or whether you just lead your group of friends, regardless of what it is, I believe there are some leadership lessons that we can learn from Joe Biden's decision to step down in this presidential election. Now, a little bit of background in case you've been under a rock. Obviously, Joe Biden is in his 80s now, and he has been serving in a political capacity in our country for over 50 years at this point. And he's had a variety of roles. Obviously, he was a longtime senator, vice president of the United States under Barack Obama. And then obviously, 4 years ago, he was elected to the highest office of the land as president. And as president, that is for many people the epitome of leadership, because for most people, they would consider that to be, or for you to be, the most powerful man in the world. You're leading the nation that leads other nations. And he has been in that role for the past 3.5 going on 4 years, and he has decided not to seek re-election. And again, I think there's some leadership lessons that no matter what capacity of leadership that you lead at, whether it's something like your family, whether you're leading a large organization, a small organization, a ministry, a business, you're a pastor, you're leading in some capacity, I think there's lessons that we can learn from Joe Biden. Now, let's take a look at this statement, okay? Let's take a first look at this statement. He opens it, "My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we've made great progress as a nation." And he goes through all of his different accomplishments and achievements and the things that he's proud of. And whether you agree with his politics or not, this is something that a lot of leaders do. They will list out their accomplishments as a way of rallying or, exciting the base. I used to work at a very large church. And one of the things that we used to do at the beginning of all of our staff meetings, and they still do this to this day, is they celebrate wins and losses. And this is a church that had a staff of 130 people. And so it was impossible for you to know everything that was going on at the church. But they always celebrated those wins and losses because, one, they wanted all of us as staff to be excited about the work that the church was doing. But secondly, it brings awareness. And not everyone who's on board knows all of the details of what's going on as the ship moves forward, right? And I think Joe Biden was trying to do that a bit, is just to say, hey, let's just recap some of the things that we've been able to accomplish as an administration that I'm proud of, and let's celebrate those things. And I think that's worthy of any leader to do that, regardless of where you are leading at. You always want to celebrate your wins and your victories, okay? Now, let's skip down to this third paragraph. He says, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president." That's a powerful statement. It's a powerful statement because it's very clear that he views leadership through the lens of it is an honor to serve, not to be served, not to be the most influential, not to be the most powerful, not to have my name ringing out. It is an honor to serve. It is an honor to put the needs of those I am leading before my own because I'm serving you, okay? For those of us who are believers and Christians, we see this model in Jesus. He was a servant leader. What did he do? He washed the disciples' feet. What did he do? He always wanted to make sure that people's needs were met. That's what really good leaders do, regardless of what area, capacity, level of leadership you're at. If you want to be a good leader, put the needs of others before your own and recognize that, man, it's really an honor to serve. This is not something that I'm entitled to. This is not something that I should force on others. This is something that is legitimately an honor. It's a blessing. It's a privilege. I'm thankful for it to serve in this capacity. And this is what he's saying. He says, it has been is the greatest honor, not just an honor. Let's not forget that word greatest. He said the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, he says this, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. Now, here's the thing about that, the interesting thing about that. He's saying, listen, if it was up to me, I'd keep going. And it was pretty clear that it seemed like he was going to keep going. It seemed like he wanted to keep rolling. But the reality is, he knew at a certain point, man, this is not in my best interest, but more importantly, it's not in my party's best interest. It is not in the American people's best interest. It is just not in anyone's best interest for me to continue going. And I think as leaders, it's important for us to look at the needs, wants, and desires of others before our own. Sure, you got to take care of yourself. Sure, absolutely. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and doing all that you can to be successful. But at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about those people that we lead as leaders. So he says this, he says, I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. That should be interesting. He said, for now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. So now he's thanking the people who have been a part of the team. For many of us as leaders, man, we think success is all about us. I made it happen. I did the thing. I led the team well. I had the vision. I had the resources. And he is saying, listen, I need to thank all the people who have been a part of this process, who've been a part of this campaign, because what he realizes is this, without them, I can't do this. Without those people making the sacrifices that they're making, this campaign would not have gone as far as it has gone. We couldn't raise the money that we raised. We couldn't cut the commercials that we cut. We couldn't go to the places that we've gone. We couldn't talk to the people that we need to talk to. We wouldn't have voter registration the way that we needed to be. You know, all the things that go into a political campaign, he's realizing, man, it's not just me. It's about those people who have been a part of this team, who believed in the vision, who latched on and said, let me move forward. All of us who are leading in some capacity, you have other people who are with you. And you should be thankful for those people who give you the opportunity to lead, right? They trust in your leadership and they're rolling with you, and you should thank them every chance and every opportunity that you get. He says, for now, let me express my deepest gratitude for all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. Then he says, I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. For many of us, there's somebody right next to us. You know, husbands, it's your wife. If you're a CEO, it's your chief operating officer. There's always someone who's next to you, who's in the trenches, who's working just as hard as you are, but they may not get the recognition that you get because they're not out in front. They're not the top of the top. They might be next to the top, but they're not the top of the top. They may not get the recognition. You want to thank them too. And he did that with Vice President Kamala Harris. And he says, let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and the trust that you have placed in me. Those are the people who helped to get him elected. And he's saying thank you to them as well. And so when we look at this statement from a leadership standpoint, man, we can say, yo, why did it take him so long to step down? He agonized over this. He genuinely wanted to finish this out. And I don't think it was an ego stroke. I don't. I think he wanted to finish it out because he said, man, people have elected and chosen me to do a job. We didn't have much of a primary because everybody rallied around me. I don't want to let people down. I want to see this thing through. I think that I'm physically able. I was having a good conversation with one of my best friends today, and both of our parents are getting older. And one of the things that he told me, he said, man, it's just hard for me to see my father not in the same physical space as he's been. He said, it's just not, it's not easy to see that. He said, it's tough. And it's tough for him to even admit that he needs help in doing certain things. We just watched the president of the United States go through that same process publicly, right? From everything that I've heard, there were private conversations with President Biden that said, hey, man, it may be wise for you to consider stepping down. Didn't want to hear it. Then it became information that was leaked to the press. Then it became quotes attributed to certain people. Then it became people literally going on camera and saying, hey, man, hey, man, I don't know if you can keep doing this at the level you want to do this at. And thankfully, he came to the realization that, you know what, I can't. Now, there's a quote that was going around that I think, looking back on it, it's pretty funny. He said, basically, unless God comes down and tells me, unless God comes down and tells me that I need to step down, I'm not stepping down. God ain't coming. Well, I don't know how he got to the realization, but I do know this. He has been at his vacation home recuperating from an illness. And, you know, it's just been a few people around him. And sometimes God will allow things like that to happen to us so that he can get our attention and let us know, hey, this is what you need to do. And so he got humbled a little bit. And I think that's, again, a part of leading, is being able to, when you get a little above yourself, being able to say, you know what? I probably do need to listen to what other people are saying. I probably do need to tap into what God is trying to tell me. And all of us as leaders, we have moments where we don't do that. And God says, you know what? I'm going to give you another opportunity. And thankfully, President Biden listened to him. And I hope and pray that when his term is up, he has some more years left. That this isn't like the end for Joe Biden, but he has some more years left where he can actually relax and enjoy his family, his grandkids. And, I don't know what else he has in his extended family, but that he can just enjoy that time. He's been serving our country for 50 years, which is tremendous. It's tremendous. But he now has that time. And I pray and hope that he uses it wisely.